people?
They were all trampled to death by moose because they never aired a single public service announcement warning people of the dangers of moose attacks.
Father, you are making this up. No world like that ever existed.
No, of course not, dear. Now you get to bed. When you wake up, the boogeyman will have left you lots of presents.
Good night, Daddy.
Good night, Lumpkin.
Iran didn't simply become exalted by purging the great Satan from our nation. It took remarkable men with a bold vision to insist that our nation strictly adhere to Islamic law. In keeping with this, we have completely eliminated drugs from our society. Now, we are the shining and magnificent example of what awaits all those brave enough to follow in our footsteps.
The funniest things were the little differences. For example, in Paris, they have flying monkeys, but they call them monkeys royale.
I puked in your seltzer.
Why, that's a terrible joke. If he really had thrown up, there'd be small chunks in my straw. See over there? That's the girl that doesn't like pizza.
Had Len Bias's coke habit been discovered earlier, the justice system could have intervened, and instead of being dead, he could have spent his entire life locked away in a dank prison cell before dying.
Hello, I'm Dr. Elliot Burke. I have a PhD in science, and I know more than you do. One day the time may come when you decide to go out and find a job. In these modern times of skyscrapers and supersonic jet planes, more and more corporations are asking of their prospective employees, and many of the current ones, to provide them with a sample of their urine, such that they may test it for the presence of drugs. Oh no, Dr. Burke, you might cry. I just went to a rave last week and got totally blotto. Well, fear not. As long as you pay attention and are armed with the following information, I can get you through that drug test. If we look at detection times amongst various drugs, we can see that other than cannabis, virtually all other drugs leave one's system in little more than a day. The best lesson we can learn from this, if you're going to accept a position with a firm that tests for drugs, is stick to the hard stuff. Hallucinogens, opiates, euphorics, and short-acting barbiturates are all strongly recommended. It is important to remember that drug testing is not based on the quality of job performance. So the use of hard drugs pose little risk where job security is concerned. Oh, no, Dr. Burke, you whine. I am too scared to truly try to open my mind and will only smoke reefer. Is there anything I can do? Yes, there is, sissy boy. If you know far enough in advance of a drug test, you can raise your metabolism through exercise and a large diet. Be sure to loaf around and reduce your diet several days before the test so that any trace amounts of THC may be passed into your bloodstream. If you do not have time to burn the drug out of your system, several hours before the drug test, drink 4 glasses of water and take 4 aspirin. This will dilute and mask your urine sample. Also ingest 100 milligrams of vitamin B2 or B12 to preserve the yellow color. These actions cannot be considered deliberate tampering and are quite effective. It is important that you do not drink excessive amounts of water the evening before the drug test. And for God's sake, do not give the first urine of the day as a sample, and don't give the beginning or the end of the stream of urine that you do provide. Mr. Burke, aren't there things I can add to my urine to get a false negative? First, it's Dr. Burke. And yes, but you must remember that labs check for pH, color, density, temperature, and the presence of creatinine. Adding powdered bleach can be quite effective, although it could throw off the pH. Warm water is a relatively safe and reasonably effective additive, so long as the yellow color can be maintained. There are also some commercial products that have been proven effective, although it's possible that some labs may detect their presence. Dr. Burke, aren't there things that could trigger a false positive? Oh, nice tie, dude. Well, thank you for noticing. My wife got me that on our anniversary. I would avoid ibuprofen as it can test positive for THC. Also, cold remedies and diet pills can make you look like a speed freak. Avoid Novocaine and antibiotics as it can cause readings for heroin and cocaine. Poppy seeds will test positive for opium, and it's best to avoid being black as melanin has been thought to lead to positive tests of THC, although this data is likely spurious. Gee, Dr. Burke, that was really informative. But why would I ever want to work for a company who is so paranoid and so fascist that they would invade my privacy just to find out whether I take drugs or not, regardless of my work performance? Why? Why indeed?
Remember that annoying, dorky loser kid in college who didn't have any friends and ate bugs, never been with a girl, and wouldn't party with you and your friends? Well, when you insist that your politicians have no history of drug use, that's who you're voting for.
Hey, Oren, you want a tote?
And now he's got his finger on the button.
George wants to score some lewds for the upcoming freakout, but he's new in the neighborhood. He's approached by Luther, who informs George that he has the goods. George wants to do the deal, but a number of questions pop into his head. Is Luther a narc? Is Luther working with hoods who will rub him out? Does Luther have good shit? Fortunately, George knows what to look for in a dealer. First and foremost, Luther is alone, and so he passes the first test. If Luther had been accompanied by other bad dudes, George would have grooved on elsewhere. Some signs George knows to look for are whether a dealer has ever been to jail. Is he a tattoo artist or riddled with tattoos? Is he a paramedic or a smelly hippie? Anyone fitting this description is almost guaranteed not to be an undercover cop. Luther doesn't fall into any of these categories, although his hygiene is questionable. But George checks out Luther's arms and looks into his dilated pupils and sees that he also uses. George also notices that Luther is calmly and carefully checking him out, too. Remember, Luther doesn't know if George is a narc. After the two are satisfied that they both speak the latest drug lingo and are for real, Luther offers George a sample. George is cool with it, and Luther suggests that they go to a private place to do the deal. George agrees, but makes sure that even though the place is private, there are still people traffic nearby. Luther suggests a public restroom, and George agrees. At no point has Luther asked George how much money he has, nor has he seen George take out his wallet prior to approaching him, nor asked him to pay in advance. Had this happened, George would have grooved on. George got the lewds and eventually went on to become president. Luther was strangled to death by his own intestines later that day. It's always best to know your dealer in advance and have references, but with common sense, you can still score and have a very freaky time.
These zombie parties sure are dull.
Yeah, but at least they haven't eaten anyone's brain.
Speak for yourself. Here's your drink.
It tastes weird.
Drink up.
I don't know. What did you put in this?
Prune juice, tonic, vodka, and roofies.
Oh, all right.
Say, you're a zombie.
Brains.
Could you give me directions to the wall?
Brains.
Whether I'm at work or play, I don't let drugs interfere with my performance.
My frog skin is black. My soul is black. The empty moon must laugh.
I am cursed by the gods to exist. No one may see my face.
We are creatures of ambivalence. We sleep in our tombs.
I am man's fate, from which there is no escape.
I will run away on fallow birthday cakes.
We have feet of clay, trapped in our own malaise.
I am pristine contamination. Tell me, atheist, where is your God now?
You are the darkness that smothers fragile sparks.
You are a slippery eel, forever struggling to untangle for a net.
The frogman and welder are natural enemies. They must detest each other as they wait to die.
I am man's fate, from which there is no escape.
I will run away on fallow birthday cakes.
We have feet of clay, trapped in our own malaise.
I am man's fate, from which there is no escape.
I will run away on fallow birthday cakes.
Nothing is inherently evil by nature. Rather, it is how one uses an item that dictates its merit. Case in point, here we see an ordinary pillow. In this instance, the pillow is being used to sleep on. We see Bryant drift off into an easy, blissful dream state. The pillow is his friend. The pillow is good. Along comes Nate. Say hi, Nate. Nate is a deranged sociopath. Nate also has a pillow, and he uses it to smother the life out of Bryant. In this instance, the pillow is bad. Here we see Theo. Theo is armed with a gun. The gun is bad when it is used to rob a liquor store. But a gun can also be good. Here we see Laramie.
Oh, my God! I thought you were a moose!
Drugs are good when they inspire creative genius.
Where Alf the sacred river ran, through caverns measureless to man, down to a sunless sea.
But bad when the CIA engages in the trafficking of drugs to fund an illegal war in Honduras. A politician is bad when he overwhelmingly ignores his constituents' pleas for legalization of drugs. And completely immoral when he uses the taxes of these same constituents to pay the expenses of the fight against their vote to legalize drugs. Well, I sure have egg on my face. I guess in the case of politicians, some things are completely evil. The Office of National Drug Control Policy is a department of the executive branch from which the anti-drug effort emanates and spending is determined. In 1999, over $17 billion was spent by the federal government to fight the war on drugs, and an additional $33 billion was spent on the state and local level. Future generations watching this film might not be able to appreciate the meaning of that number in today's dollars. So here's a handy aid. Suppose Congressman Bob Barr wanted to hire a male prostitute off the street. If he used the entire United States war on drugs budget to fund his hypothetical deviant behavior, he could receive oral sex 2.5 billion times before he'd have to use his own money. But if Bob Barr isn't using government money on hard liquor and prostitutes, where is it all going? Much of the federal dollars has gone towards the creation of propaganda disguised as public service announcements like the following.
If you use drugs, no one will ever love you. And one day, your brain will explode.
Some of the money goes to local enforcement.
Okay, ma'am. We're cops.
Nearly 1% of the United States population is in prison, and mostly for drug crimes. Don't you think we should spend more money on treatment?
Sure! Here's a check for $1 billion to build even more prisons.
You know, Paco, I'm a little troubled by the egregious abuses of human rights caused by your Colombian army.
Oh, si, senor. It saddens me too. Perhaps you could look the other way if, in addition to executing the people who oppose our dictatorship, we also kill the peasants who grow coca.
Sounds good to me. Here's $1 billion, and a promise to provide you with lots of advanced weaponry. We'll even use our own troops to help with the slaughter.
Muchas gracias, senor gringo.
This mushroom is called psilocybin. Psilocybin contains psychedelic properties. The very act of just picking this mushroom from the ground could land you 5 years in prison and a fine of $25,000. This is a poisonous mushroom. If a person were to consume even a fraction, they would suffer severe abdominal pains followed by liver and kidney failure, resulting in days of suffering that culminate with circulatory collapse and death. This mushroom can be freely collected, hoarded, and even passed around. Apparently, our legislators would rather we die than have a hallucinogenic experience.
You killed us.
Excuse me?
I was in a restaurant. I was on my way to work.
I was riding my bike.
I saw something I wasn't supposed to. It slit my throat.
It was a stray bullet.
What do I have to do with this?
They were drug dealers fighting over money. Fighting about money. Your money.
But if drugs were legalized, ruthless gangsters wouldn't get any money. Look at what happened when Prohibition on alcohol was repealed. It's the government's bad policy that's responsible for your deaths.
Huh. Yeah, I guess that's right. Being dead really messes with your sense of logic.
Sorry for bothering you.
Which stop is closest to the Senate?
It's the policy.
court is in session. The defendant may be seated. Your client is accused of rejecting Satan and all that is unholy. What do you have to say in her defense?
If it pleases the court, I'd like to do my chicken impression. Moo! Moo! Moo!
That's terrible. Chickens don't go moo.
They do if you tape their mouths shut. The defense rests.
It is the opinion of this court that you be put to death. The method of execution shall require that you be tossed from a scooter while people look on and laugh. The court is adjourned.
Satan rules!
A lot of hard work and effort went into making this film. Beyond the sacrifices, a great deal of time was spent putting this project together. It has been my sincerest wish that audiences everywhere would watch and, in the process, maybe learn a thing or two about the drug war and about drugs themselves. While I realize it's impossible to reach everyone, if just one person, out of all the people that watch, just one of them gets hooked on drugs, it will all have been worth it.
God, I hate to think what I'd be doing if I ever messed around with drugs.